I want to be clear about something. I was just standing there.
Showtime.
That's it. That's the whole thing I did. I stood in a circle on the floor because a tall gray alien with a face like a disappointed horse told me to stand in a circle on the floor. I'm a reasonable guy. I follow directions. Someone says stand here, I stand there. Someone says don't move, I don't move. Someone says please stop breathing so loudly, I hold my breath until I get dizzy and almost fall over, which apparently was also wrong. The assessment chamber was big, echoey, and smelled like ozone mixed with something I can only describe as nervous reptile. Tiered seating wrapped around the central arena where I stood, though only a handful of aliens occupied the galleries. Most of them looked bored. One was eating something that wriggled. The floor beneath my feet had cracks in it, not like decorative cracks, but the kind that suggested someone had recently exploded. Commandant Kesseth circled me slowly, her 4 amber eyes blinking in sequence top pair, then bottom pair, as she studied a holographic display floating beside her head. She was Valorian, which meant 7 feet of gray hide, a snout full of gill slits, and a whip-thin tail that kept twitching like it wanted to hit something. Blue veins ran beneath her skin, glowing faintly. I'd been told this was normal. I'd also been told not to stare, but come on. Glowing veins. I was staring. Her 2 arms were clasped behind her back in what I assumed was a military posture. Very official. Very intimidating. Totally wasted on me because I was mostly thinking about whether the cafeteria here served anything I could digest without growing extra organs. Hold still, she said. Her voice sounded like gravel being polite. I'm holding still. You're breathing. I mean, yeah, that's sort of a continuous thing for me. Her gill slits fluttered. I couldn't tell if that was annoyance or just how she processed air. The holographic display beside her flickered, and she tilted her elongated snout toward it. Her tail went still. That was the first sign something was wrong. The tail stopping. At the time, I didn't know Valorian tails only stop moving when they're processing something catastrophic. I thought maybe she was just concentrating. Run it again, she said to the technician in the booth above us. The technician, another Valorian, younger, with veins that pulsed a nervous greenish blue, tapped something on his console. His name was Registrar Malux, and he had the energy of someone who expected to be fired at any moment. Commandant, the scan completed successfully. The results are... Run it again. A hum filled the chamber. Blue light washed over me from the pillars surrounding the circle. It tickled. I tried not to giggle because Kesseth already seemed like she wasn't having a great day. The display flickered again. Kesseth's 4 eyes widened. All of them. At once. Her bioluminescent veins flared from soft blue to electric, pulsing so bright I could see them through her uniform. That's not possible, she said. What's not possible? I asked. She ignored me. Her tail had started lashing now, whipping back and forth hard enough to create little gusts of air. Malux. Explain this reading. Up in the booth, Malux's own veins were doing something alarming. They'd gone from green-blue to a shade I can only call panic purple. His 2 arms flew across the console, tapping frantically. I don't, Commandant, the scanner is calibrated correctly. I checked it myself this morning. These readings are... they shouldn't. What shouldn't? I said. Did I fail? I didn't know you could fail standing. Kesseth finally looked at me. Really looked at me. All 4 eyes locked onto my face with an expression I'd only ever seen on nature documentaries, specifically the part where a zebra realizes the tall grass is looking at it funny. What are you? She asked. Hollis? Your species. Human? Is this a trick question? It was on the enrollment form. I filled out like 9 of them. Her gill slits fluttered rapidly. In the galleries above, I noticed the bored aliens weren't bored anymore. The one who'd been eating something wriggly had stopped mid-bite. Another one had stood up. A third was slowly backing toward the exit. Commandant, Malux called down, his voice cracking. The scan indicates cellular regeneration rates consistent with... I need to check this. Consistent with Class 9 entities. I saw it. Class 9 entities are theoretical. I saw it, Malux. I raised my hand. Quick question. What's a Class 9 entity? Nobody answered. Kesseth had begun pacing, her tail carving figure 8s through the air behind her. The holographic display rotated to show what I assumed was a diagram of me, except it was covered in symbols and numbers that meant absolutely nothing. Some of them were flashing red. That seemed bad. Red usually meant bad. Run the combat metrics, Kessuth ordered. Commandant, I really don't think. Run them. Another hum. More blue light. This time it felt like the light was paying very close attention to me, which is a weird thing to feel about light. When it stopped, Malux made a sound I can only describe as a whimper that had given up on life. Impact resistance, he read aloud, and his voice had gone flat in the way voices go flat when the brain behind them is checked out, exceeds scanner maximum. Toxin resistance exceeds scanner maximum. Pain tolerance exceeds scanner maximum. Thermal tolerance. Exceeds scanner maximum, I guessed. Exceeds scanner maximum. His two arms dropped to his sides. His tail hung limp. Commandant, the scanner maximum is set to accommodate Krithok's battle forms. This human exceeds Krithok's battle forms. I didn't know what a Krithok was, but based on the way half the gallery had now evacuated, I assumed it was something impressive. This is a mistake, Kessuth said. Her veins were pulsing so fast they'd become almost solid blue, like neon signs advertising an anxiety attack. Humans are soft, they die easily. Everyone knows this. I mean, we're not that soft, I said. Every eye in the chamber turned to me. We can be pretty tough sometimes. My grandmother lived to 93, and she smoked for 60 years. That's sort of impressive, right? Kessuth stared at me. Her gill slits had stopped moving entirely, which I was starting to understand was very bad. Your species, she said slowly, resists its own poison for decades and survives. Some of us, not all. It's like a coin flip. Genetics and luck and stuff. She made a sound. It might have been a laugh. It might have been the beginning of a psychotic break. Hard to tell with alien vocal cords. Run the final metric, she said. Combat threat assessment. Commandant, I must advise against. Run it. The blue light washed over me one more time. This time the tickle was almost pleasant. Like a warm bath for my bones. When it faded, Malux didn't say anything. He just stared at his console. His mouth, well, the opening on his snout that functioned as a mouth, hung open. His 4 eyes had gone glassy. Registrar Malux, Kessuth said. Report. Nothing. Malux. Still nothing. The young Valorian reached up with one trembling arm and pressed something on his console. The holographic display beside Kessuth shifted, and new text appeared. I couldn't read it, alien language, but I could see the color. Gold. Everything on the display had turned gold. Kessuth's tail stopped mid-swing. Her veins went from pulsing blue to a solid, brilliant white. In the galleries, someone screamed. Not a scared scream. More like the kind of scream you make when reality stops making sense and you need to express that vocally. That's 72, Kessuth whispered. That's founder level. Is that good? I asked. It sounds fancy. The founders built the Galactic Covenant. They were beings of immense power. They ascended beyond physical form 10,000 years ago. They were gods, human. You are registering as a god. Oh. I scratched my nose. That seems like a lot. Kessuth spun toward the booth. This stays contained. No one speaks of this. Malix, isolate the scan data immediately. Lock it to my authorization only. We need to... A pleasant chime echoed through the chamber. Everyone froze. Up in the booth, Malix looked down at his console with the expression of someone who had just watched their entire civilization crumble into dust. His veins had gone completely dark. His tail drooped to the floor. His 4 eyes blinked, slowly, one pair at a time. Commandant, he said, and his voice was barely audible. The scan results were flagged as anomalous. And? Anomalous results are automatically forwarded to Central Command for review. Override it. I can't. It already sent. He swallowed. To everyone. An alarm began to blare. Not loud, but persistent, like a headache that had learned to make noise. Across the tiered galleries, personal devices began buzzing, chirping, and howling in a dozen different notification tones. I watched a 4-eyed alien in the 3rd row look at his tablet, look at me, look at his tablet again, and then faint. Just crumpled. Boneless. Gone. 2 more followed. A Valorian in the front row dropped to her knees and pressed her forehead against the floor, which seemed excessive, but who was I to judge? Kessuth stood perfectly still, her white glowing veins casting sharp shadows across her face. Her 4 eyes were locked on me with an intensity that suggested she was calculating exactly how much paperwork this was going to generate. "Human?" she said. "Yeah? What exactly did you eat for breakfast this morning? Cereal? And like half a protein bar. Why?" She didn't answer. Somewhere in the distance, I heard more alarms starting up. Other buildings, maybe. Other facilities. The notification chimes from personal devices had become a constant symphony of escalating panic. Malix's voice drifted down from the booth, hollow and resigned. "Commandant, I'm receiving emergency hails from the Admiralty, the Council of Species, the Theological Consensus, and someone claiming to be the High Arbiter of Prophetic Interpretation. They're all asking the same thing. Which is, who authorized enrollment of a founder-level entity, and why wasn't the fleet notified?" Kesseth's tail whipped sideways and shattered a holographic display pillar. Glass and light scattered across the cracked floor. She didn't seem to notice. "I just wanted to know where the cafeteria is," I said. Nobody was listening. The alarms kept blaring. The notifications kept chiming. More aliens were running now, some toward me, some away from me, several directly into walls because they couldn't stop staring at their devices. I sighed and sat down on the cracked floor. Standing was clearly getting me nowhere. Here's something they don't tell you about being accidentally classified as a god. Nobody offers you a chair. I sat on the cracked floor of the assessment chamber for approximately 4 minutes before Kesseth remembered I existed. She'd been having what I can only describe as a very loud conversation with her tablet. Except the tablet was holographic and the conversation involved a lot of gill-slitting and tail-whipping, and at one point she threw her 2 arms up in a gesture so aggressive I thought she might accidentally hit herself. "No, I did not authorize," she snarled at the floating display. "The human arrived through standard exchange protocols. Blame the diplomatic corps. Blame whoever processes intake forms. Do not blame." The display chirped something I couldn't understand. "I am aware of what founder level means, Admiral. I have been teaching combat assessment for 30 cycles. I know what the classification indicates. What I am telling you is that it must be a scanner malfunction because the alternative is..." More chirping. Yes, I understand the scanners were calibrated this morning. Malix?" Up in the booth, Malix flinched so hard he nearly fell out of his chair. His veins had settled into a steady, pulsing gray that I was pretty sure indicated either severe depression or the alien equivalent of a Windows error screen. "Commandant, tell the Admiral you calibrated the scanners." "I calibrated the scanners," Maluk said to nobody in particular. His 4 eyes were unfocused, his tail lay completely still on the floor behind him. I was genuinely concerned he might be having some kind of neurological event. "He calibrated the scanners," Kesseth repeated to her display. "The readings are still impossible. Humans are." She stopped, looked at me. All 4 eyes narrowing. "Human, stand up. I'm comfortable." "Stand up." I stood up. Not because I wanted to, but because she had the energy of someone who would pick me up if I didn't, and I'd seen her tail shatter that pillar. Seemed like she could probably throw me pretty far if motivated. "Have you been genetically modified?" "What? No. Cybernetic enhancements? I have a filling in 1 tooth. Does that count? Exposure to radiation, exotic matter, temporal anomalies, or divine intervention? I got an X-ray last year for a sprained wrist." Her gill slits fluttered in what I was beginning to recognize as extreme frustration. "Then explain how you register as a founder-level entity." "I literally cannot explain that. I don't know what any of those words mean. I signed up for an exchange program because my guidance counselor said it would look good on applications, and then I got on a ship, and then I came here, and then you made me stand in a circle. And now, apparently, I'm a god? I didn't ask for this, I just want lunch." Kesseth opened her mouth to respond, but before she could, the main doors to the assessment chamber burst open. Burst is actually underselling it. They exploded inward with enough force to send debris skittering across the already cracked floor, and through the smoking doorway marched approximately 15 armed Valorians in full tactical gear. Their veins glowed combat red. Their tails were rigid and raised like scorpion stingers. Every single one of them had a weapon pointed directly at my chest. "Oh, come on," I said. "Founder and tidy," the lead soldier bellowed. "You are Harabi detained under Covenant Emergency Protocol 7. Do not resist. Any movement will be interpreted as aggression and met with overwhelming force. I'm just standing here. He's standing, someone in the back yelled. Confirmed standing. Maintain targeting. Kesseth stepped between me and the firing squad, her two arms spread wide. This is my assessment chamber, my jurisdiction. Lower your weapons immediately. Commandant, we have orders from Central Command. I don't care if you have orders from the founders themselves. This human is an enrolled student under my supervision, and I will not have him vaporized before I understand why my equipment is malfunctioning. The equipment isn't malfunctioning, a new voice said. Everyone turned. A Valorian the first Saitive one first stepped through the ruined doorway, and I could immediately tell he was important because his uniform had more decorations on it than fabric. His bioluminescent veins pulsed a calm, steady gold, which I now realized was probably supposed to match the founder-level classification color, which felt like a weird fashion choice. His four eyes swept across the chamber with the tired patience of someone who had seen too much nonsense in their career to be surprised by more. Admiral Thessorn, Kesseth said, and her voice had gone stiff in a way that suggested complicated workplace dynamics. Commandant. He nodded to her, then looked at me. His expression didn't change, but his tail curled slightly. So, this is the human. I have a name, I said. It's Hollis. Hollis. He pronounced it like he was tasting something unfamiliar. Hollis, the founder-level human. Do you have any idea how many communications channels you have crashed in the last 8 minutes? I've been sitting on the floor for most of that time, so no. 14 separate channels, including the priority line to the theological consensus, which has not experienced an outage in 600 years. He clasped his two arms behind his back. The High Arbiter is currently having what I'm told is a crisis of faith. 3 council members have demanded emergency sessions. And the Krithox ambassador has formally requested permission to, and I quote, witness the impossible one with their own eyes before the universe corrects its mistake. That last one sounds threatening. The Krithox consider it a compliment. They want to see you before you explode. Why would I explode? You shouldn't exist. Things that shouldn't exist tend to correct themselves violently. He said this with the casual tone of someone describing weather patterns. In theory. Kesseth's tail lashed. Admiral, this is clearly a technical error. Humans are baseline organisms. They have no notable abilities. They die from temperature variations and emotional distress and forgetting to hydrate. The idea that one could register as founder level is absurd, Thessorn agreed, which is why I've ordered a full biological analysis. He looked at me. You will come with us. Do I have a choice? Technically, yes. You could resist, and then these soldiers would attempt to subdue you, and based on your combat metrics, you would accidentally kill most of them, which would create significant paperwork for everyone. I looked at the 15 soldiers. They looked at me. Several of them had started sweating, which I didn't even know Valorians could do. Their veins were flickering between red and something closer to pale pink. I'll come with you, I said. Excellent. The walk from the assessment chamber to wherever we were going took us through the grand concourse, and I will never forget what I saw there. The Academy's main thoroughfare was massive vaulted ceilings, gleaming floors, holographic banners displaying what I assumed were inspirational messages. Usually, according to Malix, who had been conscripted into escorting me and looked like he wanted to dissolve into the floor, it was crowded with students and faculty from dozens of species. Today, it was chaos. Aliens ran in every direction, many of them holding tablets or communication devices and screaming at each other. A group of what looked like crystalline beings huddled in a corner, their bodies chiming frantically. A massive reptilian creature stood frozen in the middle of the walkway, all 4 of its eyes locked on me as I passed, its 2 arms clutching a datapad so hard the screen cracked. Someone was crying. Multiple someones, actually. This seems excessive, I said. You have invalidated several foundational assumptions about the nature of sentient life, Thessorn replied without looking at me. Reactions are understandably heightened. I didn't invalidate anything. I just stood in a circle. Yes, and the circle told us that you, a member of a species we classified as mostly harmless, possess physical capabilities that exceed our most powerful known entities. The philosophical implications alone. He was interrupted by a small alien throwing itself at my feet. I stopped walking. The alien was maybe 3 feet tall, covered in soft blue fur with enormous black eyes and 2 trembling arms raised toward me in what was clearly supplication. Its translator device crackled. "Great One," it squeaked. "Bless this humble servant. Grant me the wisdom of the founders. I have prepared offerings." "Please get up," I said. "I cannot rise until the Great One acknowledges." "I acknowledge you. Please get up. This is weird." The alien burst into tears. Happy tears, I think, based on the way it immediately started praising my generosity to everyone within earshot. 2 soldiers had to physically remove it from the area, and it kept trying to touch my shoes as they dragged it away. "That's going to keep happening," Thessorn observed. "Can we walk faster?" We walked faster. The biological analysis facility was located in a building adjacent to the main academy complex, a sterile, white-walled structure that hummed with energy I could feel in my back teeth. They put me in a room. They asked me to remove my shirt. They scanned me with things that weren't circles this time, handheld devices, floating drones, something that looked disturbingly like a very large needle. "His bone density is remarkable," one technician murmured. "His cellular regeneration is off the charts," another added. "His pain receptors are, is this right? His pain receptors are barely functional. How does he know when he's injured?" "Usually the blood," I said, "or the weird angle." Everyone stared at me. "What? You figure it out. Bone's not supposed to bend that way, so you know something's wrong." The lead technician, a Valorian with veins that hadn't stopped pulsing purple since I arrived, approached Thessorn with a tablet. They spoke in hushed tones. Thessorn's tail began to twitch. "You're certain?" he asked. "We've run the analysis 4 times. The human is human. There are no modifications, no enhancements, no anomalies. His biology is consistent with baseline human parameters." "Then explain the readings." The technician's gill slits fluttered. "Admiral, I don't think the readings are wrong. I think our classification system is wrong. We've never properly scanned a human before. We assumed they were fragile because they die frequently, but they die frequently and keep going. Their bodies sustain damage that would kill most species, and they simply they poison themselves recreationally. They break bones and heal them. They exist in a state of perpetual cellular warfare against their own organs, and they call this being healthy." Thessorn looked at me. His gold-pulsing veins had flickered. "Is this accurate?" "I mean, I had pneumonia twice as a kid," I said, "and I broke my arm falling off a bike, and I'm pretty sure I have minor lactose intolerance, but I eat cheese anyway because cheese is good." "You deliberately consume substances that harm you. Cheese is really good." The Admiral closed his 4 eyes. When he opened them, something in his expression had shifted. It wasn't fear exactly. It was closer to resignation. The look of someone who had just realized the universe was much stranger than they'd been led to believe. "Get me a line to the Council," he said, "and someone find this human something to eat. If his species is capable of weaponizing their own digestive systems, I don't want to discover what happens when one gets hungry." They found me a sandwich. I don't know what was in it. Something meat-adjacent, something vegetable-adjacent, something that might have been bread if bread glowed slightly. But it was food, and I was starving, so I sat in a corner of the biological analysis facility and ate my weird alien sandwich while the entire galactic political structure had a meltdown around me. The council session was broadcast on a screen in the main lab. I watched while I chewed. Cannot simply reclassify an entire species based on one individual. The readings are consistent. If this human registers as founder level, we must assume all humans. Do you understand what you're suggesting? There are billions of them, an entire planet of founder-level entities, and we've been treating them as a minor diplomatic curiosity. The theological consensus demands an explanation. The founders were unique, sacred. If humans possess equivalent capabilities, perhaps the founders were human. Someone fainted. On screen, I watched a council member simply collapse out of their chair. Nobody helped them up. Everyone was too busy screaming at each other. Malix appeared beside me. He looked marginally less catatonic than before, though his veins were still that unsettling gray. In his two arms, he carried a tablet. "I've been reviewing your species' history," he said. "Cool. You dropped nuclear weapons on yourselves. Twice, yeah. That was a whole thing. You invented warfare before you invented writing. Sounds about right. You have exposed yourselves to hard vacuum, extreme radiation, and temperatures that would flash freeze most known organisms, and your primary response has been to send more of your kind to experience these conditions deliberately." I took another bite of my sandwich. Space is interesting. Malix sat down beside me, his tail curled around his legs. His four eyes stared at nothing. "My entire academic career has been focused on threat classification," he said quietly. "I have studied the most dangerous species in the known galaxy. The Crithox, the Voidborn, the crystalline hegemony. I believed I understood the parameters of biological danger. And your species plays games where you run toward each other at full speed and collide deliberately. For fun. Football's pretty popular, yeah. You call that fun. I mean, I prefer basketball, but..." Hollis. He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something other than panic in his eyes. It might have been respect. It might have been existential terror wearing respect's clothing. "I think your species might be the most dangerous thing in the universe, and you have no idea." I finished my sandwich. On the screen, the council session had devolved into what looked like a fistfight between two representatives. Someone was invoking ancient prophecies. Someone else was demanding an immediate quarantine of Earth. "Hey, Malix? Yes? Is there more of this sandwich?" He stared at me. Then he started laughing. It was a weird sound. Valorians laughed with their gill slits, apparently, creating a sort of wheezing whistle. But it was definitely a laugh. "I'll find you more food," he said. "Thanks." The galaxy is going to change because of today. Probably. Entire political structures will collapse. Theological foundations will crumble. The balance of power between species will shift irreversibly. That sounds like a lot of paperwork for someone. He laughed again, harder this time, his gray veins finally flickering back towards something healthier. On screen, the council had given up on fistfights and moved on to collective despair. Someone was reading from what looked like an ancient religious text. Someone else was crying. The high arbiter of prophetic interpretation was apparently still having their crisis of faith and had begun speaking in tongues. I leaned back against the wall and closed my eyes. I'd come here for an exchange program. I'd wanted something interesting for my college applications, maybe a letter of recommendation from an alien professor. Instead, I'd apparently broken an entire civilization's understanding of reality by standing in a circle. Malix returned with more sandwiches. I ate them. The galaxy kept panicking. Somewhere, probably, my guidance counselor was feeling very smug about suggesting this program. She had no idea. 3 days later, they let me attend actual classes. Not because they'd resolved anything. The council was still in emergency session. The theological consensus had split into 4 separate factions, and someone had started a petition to either worship humanity or preemptively quarantine us, depending on which version you signed. But Commandant Keseth had apparently decided that keeping me locked in the biological analysis facility was creating more problems than letting me wander around, mostly because other students kept trying to break in to see me. So there I was, sitting in an introductory lecture on galactic navigation, surrounded by aliens who kept stealing glances at me like I might spontaneously ascend to a higher plane of existence. I was taking notes. They were bad notes, because the professor spoke too fast and used words I didn't understand, but I was trying. "Hollis," whispered the crystalline being beside me. Her body chimed softly with every movement, refracting light into tiny rainbows. "Is it true you can survive the vacuum of space?" "For like a minute, maybe. Then I'd die." "A minute." Her chiming intensified. "Unprotected, in vacuum. It's not comfortable. It's not comfortable." She made a sound like wind chimes having a panic attack, and didn't speak to me for the rest of class. Afterward, Malux found me in the grand concourse. His veins had settled into a calm blue. He'd apparently made peace with the destruction of everything he believed about the universe. Good for him. "The council has made a preliminary decision," he said. "Yeah? Humanity has been reclassified from minor species, limited threat, to major species, existential consideration required." That sounds bad. It's actually an honor. Only 3 other species have received that classification in galactic history. He paused. All 3 are extinct now, but that's probably unrelated. Probably. We walked in silence for a moment. The other students parted around us like water around a particularly confusing rock. Hollis, Malik said eventually, "What are you going to do now?" I thought about it. The galaxy had changed. Entire political structures were wobbling. My species had gone from diplomatic footnote to existential crisis in the time it took to run a scanner. But I was still just a guy who'd wanted something good for his college applications. "I'm going to go to class," I said, "do my homework, maybe join a club or something." Moloch's 4 eyes blinked at me. "That's it? What else would I do?" "You could." He stopped. His tail twitched. "I don't actually know. I've never met a god who wanted to join clubs." First time for everything. I left him standing there, his gill slits fluttering with something that might have been confusion or might have been the beginning of a beautiful friendship.